Please take your seats. Our program is about to begin. Please welcome back today's Master of Ceremonies, Doug Shoup.
Welcome back, everyone. We hope you found the first part of this morning's program educational and inspirational. Thank you again to today's titanium sponsor, Parsons, and thank you to our Luncheon sponsors, HDR and Southern California Edison. We have a huge turnout of more than 800 participants today. Please be patient and take your time navigating the virtual summit. If you need any help, please click the tech support link in the menu or go to our information registration booth in the lobby. We will have people ready to assist you at any time during the event. Don't forget to follow along with your custom Summit bento box. We have some great items from our sponsors for your enjoyment, including a customized Mobility 21 Summit playlist on Spotify. Just scan the QR code on the card inside your bento box. And if you are one of the lucky few, you will find a golden ticket. If you are a winning recipient, you will be receiving a marvelous prize. Also, we want to thank all of our local, state, and federal elected officials and dignitaries who are tuning in today. Thank you. Our first speaker to welcome our luncheon is the Honorable Elaine Chao, Secretary of the U.S. Department of Transportation. She also served as U.S. Secretary of Labor from 2001 to January 2009 and is the first Asian American woman to be appointed to the President's Cabinet in American history. Secretary Chao comes to the U.S. Department of Transportation with an extensive background in the transportation sector. Early in her career, she specialized in transportation financing in the private sector. She began her executive career in public service, working on transportation issues at the White House. Secretary Chao has a distinguished career in the public, private, and nonprofit sectors. As an immigrant arriving in America at the age of 8, Elaine spoke no English. However, through her hard work, she was able to achieve her citizenship at the age of 19. Her experience transitioning to a new country has motivated her to devote most of her professional life to ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to build better lives for themselves and their families. Please help me welcome U.S. DOT Secretary Elaine Chao.
Hi, everyone. It's great to join you for this virtual summit. The U.S. Department of Transportation works with states and local communities to make transportation more accessible, affordable, safe, and reliable for everyone. Our number one priority is safety. The second priority is rebuilding and refurbishing our country's critical infrastructure. And the third priority is preparing for the future by engaging with emerging new technologies to address legitimate public concerns about safety, security, and privacy without hampering innovation. Our annual budget at the department is about $88 billion a year, and we are focused on investing in today's and tomorrow's transportation infrastructure. It is really exciting to be working in the transportation sector nowadays. We are in a transformational period of transportation innovation that holds great promise for increasing safety and access to mobility for all generations. This includes autonomous vehicles technology, which can help underserved communities, including senior citizens and the disability community, gain greater mobility options. In aviation, the department is working to integrate new technologies such as drones and urban electric mobility systems into the national airspace. The department is also reforming regulations to allow innovation in the growing commercial space sector, where America in the last 3 years has once again reclaimed our position as number one in the world. The U.S. Department of Transportation has solicited and will continue to solicit the input of stakeholders in all these efforts. We are excited at the possibilities for increasing safety and access to mobility for the future. Thank you for what you are doing to help build a better, safer, and more efficient transportation system for the future. Take care.
Hello everyone, I'm LA Metro CEO Philip A. Washington and a Mobility 21 board member. As we all know, public transportation has had a difficult year full of incredible challenges. So has the entire transportation industry. At Metro, our 11,000 member workforce has been showing up every day to provide critical service during the pandemic. Despite the many unprecedented obstacles we faced this year, I believe in the mission and value of public transportation just as strongly today as ever. Public transit is a socio-economic enabler. One of the goals of transit is to enhance communities and lives through mobility and access to opportunity. Due to the pandemic, this is more important now than ever. Public transportation provides mobility so people can get to their jobs and small businesses. Transit can also shape land use and development patterns. And transit infrastructure projects generate jobs and economic growth. Investment in public transportation in LA County boosts the local and regional economy in terms of employment, wages, and business income. For example, Metro's public transit infrastructure program is expected to create hundreds of thousands of good-paying jobs. Finally, public transportation is an essential tool for getting America back to work. When the economy recovers, transit will move millions of frontline workers to their jobs in all industries. Human capital will drive the economic recovery. Public transit facilities, getting people to where they need to be, including our most essential workers, first responders, police, fire, healthcare workers, and many others. Coming out of this economic downturn, there will be a growing need for our services. People are going to get back on public transit and use it. They are counting on us, and we can't let them down. So I want to thank Mobility 21's 10,000 plus member organization throughout Southern California and my Mobility 21 fellow board members and advisory board members. Thank you for all you do to keep our region moving. I am particularly grateful for the leadership of our Metro Board Chair, Eric Garcetti. Mayor Garcetti is a fourth generation Angelino and the 42nd mayor of Los Angeles. He was born and raised in the San Fernando Valley, the son of public servants, and the grandson and great-grandson of immigrants from Mexico and Eastern Europe. Mayor Garcetti's life has been shaped by a deep commitment to the core values of justice, dignity, and equality for all people. I am proud to serve as CEO with him as Metro's board chair. So please welcome the Mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti.
Thank you so much, Phil, for that introduction. And thank you to Secretary Chow, the Mobility 21 Board of Directors, and to all my fellow members of the Metro Board, where I'm so proud to serve as your chair and as your colleague. But most of all, I want to express my deepest gratitude to today's honorees, our frontline transit workers. It is because of you that even as our lives have changed so radically, our transit systems have continued to serve those who call Southern California home. And we remember those and honor those across our LA Metro family who were taken from us far too soon by COVID-19. Wilfredo Corsino, a bus operator with Metro Division 13. Ramon Gomez, Sr., a bus operator with Metro Division 2. Neri Pereira, a Metro contractor. And Gabby O'Donnell and Greg O'Donnell, the mother and stepfather of our brother, our Metro Board member and Long Beach Mayor, Robert Garcia. We lift up their legacy and we honor their memory and all who have perished during this pandemic. When this group gets together each year, we don't just debate or discuss, we dream. We don't plan for months or years, but for decades and for generations. That's the spirit of Southern California, the spirit that has pushed us to invent and to reinvent the way that we get around, to become the only place where we're tunneling deep under the earth and working to send us far beyond into the heavens, all to make life better for those living on this earth. You see, what we do here matters. We don't care about geography or what's possible. For our residents and our families that are far beyond the borders of our region, we make an impact. But today we face our greatest challenge yet, the worst health crisis in a century, the steepest economic downturn since the Great Depression, and nobody has been spared. Many who commuted to and from work are now working from home. Others aren't working at all. And too many of our friends and neighbors are relying on emergency protections just to keep a roof over their heads. These times are tough. In turn, transit ridership is down. Revenues have plummeted because our public transit system serves our most vulnerable people. And when they are struggling, so too are our systems. As transportation leaders, our priority must be first to meet our most urgent needs, to save lives, to sustain services, and to lift up the people who are suffering the most. This pandemic won't last forever. We're either going to learn to live with COVID or we'll defeat it, and a new day is coming. So it isn't enough to respond today, or just even to recover and rebuild tomorrow. We have a moral, fiscal, and civic obligation to reimagine what our future can be. That means keeping our eye on the ball, recognizing that we will never meet our most pressing challenges if we are acting only for this moment. And I think we in Southern California know that better than anybody, because ours is a region that invests boldly and imagines bravely, that plans far beyond today or tomorrow. It's just who we are. And now let's not back down or slow down. Let's double down in speed and scope on achieving the goals we have set long ago. For me, those goals fit into three key areas. First, an economy that's prosperous for everyone, to preserve and recast the California dream for the next 50 years. Second, to do the necessary work to heal the racial scars left by decades of neglect, discrimination, and laws that leave communities of color behind. And third, to face the existential crisis of a climate emergency right in front of us. We've often discussed these issues as related but separate, but they're more than related. They're interconnected, and addressing any of them starts with addressing all of them. So let's start with transportation as the foundation of our economic power. Because long before we knew the term COVID-19, our region was rapidly drawing a blueprint for more jobs and more growth. But now, in the midst of confronting this crisis, our transportation investments must become the engines of an economic transformation. Because transit has to be more than just getting people from place to place. It should also bring our economy from one place to a new, stronger, more resilient future. In LA County, Measure M is achieving these aims as the largest local transportation measure ever passed in US history ×2. A measure that never sunsets, which means that long after we're all gone, these investments will still be paying dividends, keeping a transportation network growing, financially stable, structurally sound, and updated, and free from the long-term maintenance problems that plague so many other regions that pass the construction in one generation, but pass it on to the next to maintain. But even with that long-term thinking, we're also investing for the present. Our new transit projects aren't just changing the way people move, they're changing the way that people live. Because new transit lines mean good-paying jobs, and good-paying jobs lead to stable careers, and stable careers help us build a middle class. And with so many people struggling, we can't move fast enough on the 15 new and expanded rapid transit lines we are building. We have to speed up our work in the Sepulveda Transit Corridor to clear up the most congested stretch of freeway in the nation. We need to keep up the breakneck pace of the West Santa Ana Branch Transit Corridor, serving 1.2 million residents and 584,000 workers in the gateway cities. We have to build on our momentum on the light rail transit project connecting San Fernando to Van Nuys, which is nearly at shovel-ready status in the place that I grew up, the San Fernando Valley. And as we look at this transformation, we have the best motivator on earth for getting it done. The world is coming to Southern California in 2028. The Olympic and Paralympic Games won't just happen in Los Angeles. They're going to be reaching into counties and cities and communities across Southern California. So we have to create a transit system that's built with the whole region in mind. Imagine being a guest to the Olympics in 2028. Whether you arrive at LAX or Ontario, whether you're eating in Ventura or shopping in the San Fernando Valley, whether you're an athlete based in Westwood or a visitor watching an athlete in Orange County, public transit will get you where you need to be. and it will show the world what we are made of. But when the last relay is over, when the crowds have cleared and the torch has been passed on, the legacy of the Olympics and Paralympics will be much more than medal ceremonies and athletic feats. Southern California will emerge with a world-class public transit system that is equitable, interconnected, and accessible for more than 19 million souls who are lucky enough to call this region home. So bringing that vision to life demands a new level of partnership across city, county, and agency lines. My last term as Metro Chair, we held historic meetings for the first time across borders with LA Metro and the transportation agencies of Orange County and Riverside and San Bernardino counties. In the coming months, I'll invite the chairs of all regional county transportation authorities to continue this work, to come together with the LA Mobility Working Group, a body focused on designing our transportation plan for the Olympic and Paralympic Games. The working group that will pave the way for projects that connect our region and support communities across Southern California as we prepare to welcome the world back. But our horizons have to reach much farther than 2028. Together, we will lead progress on so much more, expanding MetroLink, building high-speed rail to Las Vegas and the North, and creating strategies for congestion relief that reflect the way our people live without regard to the borders between us. There is a power in partnership, and when we're working together, we can transform Southern California's workforce and economy in ways we never thought possible. And while we do everything in our power to support our hardest-hit neighbors across the region, we simply cannot drive our recovery alone. We need action from Congress, and we need it right now. And I urge our leaders in Washington across party lines and geography to build upon their transit commitments in the next coronavirus relief bill and pass the Moving Forward Act that would provide critical funding for transit programs in our region. Because the recovery and growth that happens here reverberates across America. These investments in our infrastructure are only worthwhile if everyone can benefit from them. Because if COVID-19 has laid bare long-standing racial inequities, then our transportation vision should also help close those gaps. In my city, we're already meeting that goal, delivering much-needed services and faster commute times to low-income and essential workers in downtown LA and across the cities who may not be able to afford a car. And at Metro, we're leading the way on this as well with our local hire. This is a program to hire local residents from our own backyard to work the construction projects that are in their backyards, to operate trains and buses that go through their neighborhoods, and residents who have been locked out too often of too much opportunity, who have returned from war or experienced homelessness, who have touched the criminal justice system, or come from a historically disadvantaged community. Targeted local hire works. It's a proven tool to drive equity, reduce crime and homelessness, save us all money, combat economic insecurity, and grow our economies. And it brings some of the hardest working transit workers while launching good middle-class careers and building wealth in areas long shut out of capital markets. So we need the federal government to allow Southern California to have local hire on federally funded projects the way we did in the last administration. And if your agency doesn't have a program like this yet, we'd love to share with you what we've learned and help you get yours stood up too. This is what it means to look outward, to bring those on the margins in our communities to the center of our vision. But at the same time, we need to look inward to our own agencies because equity begins at home. It starts with representation. At Metro, we have a greater proportion of Black employees than the population of Black Angelenos, a CEO who's African American, an immediate past chair who is Black. And we have championed programs to ensure that our workforce reflects our region. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens with intentionality. And it happened because we know that every decision must be made in partnerships with the communities who are our customers. Representation is only one step. But in November, we have a chance to build on that record when California voters can cast their ballots in favor of Proposition 16 to repeal Prop 209 and to make the ban on affirmative action a thing of the past. At Metro, we're ready to rev up our minority business enterprise and women-owned business enterprise programs the minute that measure passes. And in the city of LA, I signed an Executive Directive 27, which is a blueprint for advancing racial justice and representation across every department of our city government, and to prepare to implement affirmative action in every department. And we hope others will adopt this model too. It's already happening in the private sector and across different government in the public sector. Let's go big. Let's be bold. Leave no stone unturned on the path to an equitable recovery. And that means taking our most transformative action yet, eliminating fares entirely in 2021. Nothing would do more to promote reliable public transit than tearing down that final barrier to access. We've already seen it work here in LA with our Dash to Class pilot, which showed that when fares became free, the number of students riding transit increased dramatically. Free transit would put money back into the pockets of hardworking Angelenos and provide new options to millions of workers and students, parents and families, seniors and folks of all abilities. But perhaps most critical, it would mean fewer hours spent in cars, more space on our roads, less poison in our air, and a new wind at our backs as we fight to sustain human life in our region and on our planet. Which brings me to the final pillar of our mobility vision, ensuring that Southern California remains a sustainable place to live, work, and dream. Year after year, passenger vehicles remain the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in California. Year after year, the window for us to act gets narrower. So we are stepping forward right now. We've set out to electrify all of our buses by 2030, but we should get it done even sooner by the 2028 Olympics. And we're on track with the first zero-emissions bus in service on the orange G line and the silver J line coming soon. Also doing more than ever to concentrate new affordable housing near transit to reduce vehicle miles traveled and pollution. And I'm proud that the city of LA has set in motion more than 30,700 units of housing within a half mile of bus and rail stations just since 2017. That's been a model for Metro, which is replicating that success across the region with transit supportive planning grants that get people out of their cars and into their communities by helping to build vibrant neighborhoods around bus and train stations. We'll also explore new ways to ensure land left over from Metro projects to make sure that it's being used to build affordable housing with easy access to transit so we don't displace the very people we're trying to serve. And at MetroLink, we're making progress on the ambitious SCORE plan, a 10-year program to build a modern, efficient regional rail system rooted in the core tenets of sustainability, all the while eliminating 3.4 billion vehicle miles traveled and reducing 51.7 million metric tons of carbon dioxide over the coming decades. These three ways are how Southern California is confronting the landscape in front of us, not by slowing down or stepping back, but by standing firm and then accelerating our investments in jobs, equity, and sustainability. Because in this moment that has shaken everything and shaken everyone, at least one thing is now clear. We can see that normal cannot stand, and that in the words of novelist Zadie Smith, disaster demands a new dawn for families, workers, and students. A new dawn for neighborhoods too long ignored and communities too often shut out. A new dawn for another generation yearning to call this place, Southern California, their home. This work is not for the meek or the faint of heart, but it is for us, the dreamers, the doers, the architects of the future, to lead the way forward because a new day is coming. And my friends, we're going to get there together.
Thank you, Mayor Garcetti, for addressing the needs of our generation and generations to come. 2 years ago, the Auto Club made a commitment to help end distracted driving by educating drivers and communities about the dangers of texting while driving. Through paid advertising with television and radio public service announcements, signage in Auto Club branch offices, articles in Westways magazines, and news media interviews, the Auto Club's call to action for drivers is don't drive intoxicated, don't drive intoxicated. This distracted driving prevention campaign reminds everyone that the consequences of using a smartphone while behind the wheel could be the same as driving after drinking alcohol. Starting in April of next year, the Auto Club and AAA clubs across the country will unveil brand new public service announcements that focus on the solo driver. You know, that person in the car by themselves who thinks it's okay to read or send a text message because they are by themselves in the vehicle. Today, we're giving Mobility 21 the first look at that new PSA, which will hit the airwaves in 2021. Let's take a look.
Great game.
Yes.
Hey, are you good to drive?
Unlike you, I've had a few, so I got a ride share.
Good call. Hey, see you Thursday.
See you, buddy.
We know it's never okay to drink and drive. Now we need to remember that it's never okay to text and drive. Studies have shown you're distracted for up to 27 seconds after using your phone. Don't drive intoxicated. Don't drive intoxicated. A sobering message from AAA.
Due to the pandemic, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration moved this year's National Distracted Driving Awareness Month from April to October. Beginning next month, the Auto Club and traffic safety leaders across the state and nation will step up efforts to get drivers to put down their smartphones and focus on the road ahead. Not just in California, but across the U.S. and every country in the world, we have been impacted by the pandemic. It is the year of coronavirus and lives have been lost. We urge you to stay safe and maintain physical distancing. We would like to give special recognition and thanks to each and every one of our frontline workers. Here now is a clip from our partners. Thank you to all of our essential frontline workers across the globe for your sacrifice. I would like to now introduce our final speaker and luncheon keynote. This pandemic and social unrest are revealing that communication is more important than ever before. I am pleased to introduce our generational expert and Gen Xer, Scott Zimmer of Bridgeworks. Scott has keynoted and trained staff for major corporations including Virgin Hotels, General Electric, and Disneyland. Bridgeworks has been dedicated solely to the study of generational differences since its inception in 1998. Understanding the nuances and differences of our workforce will continue to play a key role in our effectiveness and success as an industry and as a region. Scott, please take it away.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much for being here today for this session on connecting with Gen Z in a post-COVID workplace. I have to say, as much as I wish I was there with you today in the same room delivering this great content, it's kind of cool being part of this really awesome virtual summit. So thank you so much for having me today, and thank you for being here. I gotta say, the coolest thing about my job, being somebody who researches and speaks on the topic of generations in the workplace, has got to be that wherever I'm speaking and whomever I'm speaking to, this is a topic that everyone can benefit from. Because we've all had that moment where we fail to connect with another generation. It doesn't matter if you work in transportation, it doesn't matter if you work in government, in finance, in hospitality. No one is immune from these different generational clashes that can happen. But now in 2020, connecting across generations is going to be more important than ever, especially with your new talent coming through the doors, so to speak. For years now, Bridgeworks has studied 5 distinct generations in the workplace. So take a look and see where you fall. We have traditionalists born prior to 1946. We've got baby boomers. We've got Gen Xers like myself. Shout out to all my fellow Xers out there, all us 80s kids. We've got millennials and Gen Z. Born between 1996 and 2010, they are the newest generation entering the workplace, and already the number one mistake I'm seeing companies make when it comes to connecting with this generation is that they're just treating them like millennials, or they're millennials 2.0 or millennials the sequel. They're not millennials. If 2020 wasn't already shocking enough, here's a stat for you. The oldest millennials this year are turning 40 years old. Let that sink in. They're 40. They're not the new kids coming through the doors. They're already established in their careers. Gen Z grew up during a completely different time, during a completely different set of circumstances, different formative experiences that shaped who they are and what their expectations are when it comes to the workplace. Here are just a few of the traits they're bringing with them into the workplace. They're industrious, they're inquisitive, they're pragmatic, they're socially conscious, and they are risk averse. And all of these different traits look a lot different when we're connecting virtually as opposed to in person. So today, I want to give you 4 strategies you can use, each and every one of you can use, to better connect with this generation during these difficult times. Because while the health and the well-being of your industry and your company is so important, the health and well-being of your team is also important. Number 1, maintain human, meaningful connections, even if it's through technology. And I know that's tough because it's really hard to feel that connection. Like, this isn't the same as if we were in a room together, but you have to do everything you can to make them feel that while they are at home by themselves, they are still a part of a team. One of the biggest misconceptions about this generation is that they don't care about that. They don't mind FaceTiming and Zooming and working from home because they've been doing that since they were young. That is true. They have been FaceTiming from a young age, but in fact, that has created sort of a strong need and a want to have more human connections. 53% of Gen Z say that they prefer working from an office versus working from home. So right there, over half of your young talent are in a position right now where they don't feel they're getting the most out of their job. They would much rather be in an office next to their boss and their colleagues, having human connection, working together face to face in person. And while there are tools like Zoom that can really help us come together when we have to stay apart, it's not the same. Because it's hard not to get Zoom fatigue. It's hard not to feel like you're getting lost in the different Brady Bunch squares. So, how do you really grow that human connection? 90% of Gen Z, they say they want some form of a human element woven into the workplace. So, as a leader, try and find ways you can do that. As a mentor, try and find ways you can do that. Have one-on-one check-ins with them. Schedule it. Make it fun. Make it authentic. Let's have a coffee tomorrow morning, even if it's just us, each in our own respective kitchens. Let's have a coffee date, or let's have a team happy hour on Thursday. Something that brings a little levity and a little authenticity to these different Zoom meetings that we have to have over and over again, because that human connection is something they value so much. Number 2, communication and feedback. Provide clear and precise direction for this generation when they're off on their own, and you have to make your expectations very, very clear. A lot of people tell me, oh, Scott, this generation needs so much hand-holding. It's not about hand-holding. It's a generation that wants to deliver on results. They do. They're industrious, they're hardworking, but like I said, they are risk-averse, and they are nervous about making a mistake. So they want to meet your expectations head-on. A lot of Gen Zers have told me, I'd rather not do something at all than attempt to do it and do it wrong. And when we're not together, that just amplifies that even more. Let me talk to you about where that comes from. This is the first generation in US history to grow up with rubrics in the classroom. Now, if you're not familiar with that, a rubric is something that's designed by the staff of a school or a teacher that sets expectations out for different projects and different assignments. If you want to get an A on this assignment, here's everything you need to do and all my expectations you need to hit in order to get that A. Laid out really clear on a piece of paper. They know exactly what they need to do to get that A. You want a B? This is what you need to do. It's laid out. There is no guesswork. Beyond that, let's say in their formative years, this generation wanted to, learn how to play the guitar, style their hair a certain way. Whatever it might be, you know where they go? They go to YouTube. They've been able to go to YouTube since 2005, since they were very, very young. And they were very young in 2005. I have adult memories of 2005, but for them, they were young. But YouTube has been this amazing tool for them where they can see step by step, how do I give a great job interview? How do I get the chain back on my bike if it pops off? As an 80s kid, if the chain came off my bike, I was a latchkey kid. I was all by myself. I had to figure it out. I had to use trial and error. This generation, it's in their pocket, their phone. This supercomputer that fits in their pocket can give them all the instructions that they need. That is what they're craving from their leaders. Tell me what you need and tell me precisely how you need it. They want to deliver on results, but unlike generations past, they don't really want to rock the boat as much as millennials and shake things up and let's disrupt this and try things new and different and I've got a fresh take. It's more like I will deliver on exactly what you need, but I need to know exactly what it is you're looking for. Number 3, social issues. Gen Z want to get involved in your diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, so get them involved early on. And if you don't have any, you're already behind. This is a generation that has come up in a time where diversity and equity were so important to them. 2020 aside, with all the racial tensions and social injustices that are going on right now, this is a generation that grew up with an African-American president. They saw gay marriage get legalized. They saw transition in social sort of norms and expectations, and acceptance is something that is very important to them. They don't want to work at a company where everybody there looks different than they do. They want to work at a company where no matter what the color of your skin and your ethnic background might be, everybody gets to bring their voice to the table and everybody gets to be heard. For this generation, that is so important. And I'm telling you, they're not looking for lip service. They want to know that the companies they work for actually take this seriously and are taking active steps to have a more socially, to have a work environment where everybody, no matter their background, is going to feel valued and respected and understood. Number 4, we are at number 4, all about well-being, and this one is important. It's the last one. Provide tools and resources to manage stress and support their mental health. This is a generation that, number 1, has less negative stigma around mental illness and mental well-being. Number 2, it's a generation that from a young age has reported high levels of stress and anxiety. 48% of Gen Zers say they are stressed or anxious most of the day. That's heartbreaking. But if you think about it, it's not that surprising. If you look at their formative years, it starts with 9/11 when they're babies. When they get to school, K through 12, they're worrying about school shootings because those are on the rise. There's violence in the desks next to them. The 2008 financial crisis when they're young, they see their parents and older siblings struggling to make ends meet during all of that. And now it is a global pandemic. This is what 2020 looks like. It is looting, it is riots, it's a pandemic that is killing people. It is a stressful time to be alive, to be young, to be starting your career. I was talking to a leader just the other day and she said this to me, and I want to read this to you. She said to me, one of the best things you can do for young talent right now is demonstrate patience and empathy. Not only will people feel more valued, but added patience will help improve creativity, productivity, and collaboration. And I could not agree more. It is so important right now. So make sure they have the tools and everything they need to feel sound, not just in their career, but in their life. Check in on them. Pair them with a mentor, somebody who can check in and be like, how are you feeling? How are you doing? How's work? You feeling stressed? Whatever it might be. People, they're not separating like, oh, that's all personal and this is business. Those lines are now very, very blurred. And we have to respect that and make sure they're getting everything they need from us as leaders. So to recap, we have 4 strategies you can use to really connect with this generation, to put you ahead of everybody else out there who's missing the mark right now. And I'm going to recap them for you. 1, maintain meaningful connections even through technology. Number 2, provide clear and precise direction. Make your expectations very clear. Number 3, get Gen Z involved in your diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. And number 4, provide tools and resources to help manage stress and support their mental health. If you do those 4 things, that is not only what gets young people in the door to work for a company like that, it gets them to stay. And if you're the manager who really is there to empathize and help them get through this difficult time, you're the manager they're going to remember 6 months, 6 years from now when they look back at this difficult time and what it was like for them. If you want more information on Gen Z or any of the tools and resources that we have at Bridgeworks for bridging generational divides, you can find me on LinkedIn under Scott Zimmer, Zimmer, or you can visit us at generations.com. Thank you so much for being here. Have a wonderful rest of the summit. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott, for shedding light on how we can better understand and successfully connect with our up-and-coming workforce. As transportation professionals, we have a responsibility to focus on our people in these challenging times. I would like to thank once again U.S. DOT Secretary Elaine Chao and LA Mayor Eric Garcetti for sharing their vision and goals. And thank you again to all of the essential frontline workers who protect and support us each and every day. Okay, let's head to the hospitality suite for the exclusive networking time with our regional executives. You will have the next hour, 11 a.m. to noon, to have smaller group FaceTime with the Mobility 21 public and private sector CEOs and staff from their organizations. Please click on the navigation tool at the top left and select Hospitality Suite to enter and connect. You can also walk through the virtual doorways and expo hall to get there. And if you haven't had the chance yet, please go to our expo hall to connect with our exhibitors. Check out their booths and find those Easter eggs. Thank you again for tuning in to day one of the summit. We will start tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., beginning with the breakout sessions, followed by the closing general session at 10 a.m. Thanks again, and see you tomorrow.